Hello. I'm so excited.
Hello, it's great to be on with you.
Yes, so I'm just going to start. So I am talking to Matt Frazier, who is an author. He has a new book is it out right now available?
It is. It's out on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and any local bookstore.
When Heaven Calls. He's a psychic and medium. And you had a reality show this past year called Meet the Frasers on E. And
Still do.
Oh,
Yep.
good. So you still do. So, where is it in I know that you had a season come out. Are you coming back for a second season? Are you on hold with everything else? What's going on?
Well, yeah, everything's on hold right now and on hiatus, obviously, because of the virus. But you can actually go and binge watch the whole first season right now on Amazon, Hulu, or right on the NBC.com app, which is pretty
Awesome.
cool.
Yes, great. I know people are able to catch up on shows or rediscover shows, which is really cool. That's one good thing about all of this. So I'm excited because of this book. And, you said you would do a reading of me. I know as a psychic medium, I know you, as a medium, I know that you talk to, people that have crossed over. Um, but what about the psychic part? Like, do you have any feeling about when we'll get out of this coronavirus mess?
Well, the only thing that heaven tells me is that, it's we're going to be in this for a while. We're going to be more in this for economic reasons than we are even with the virus. But we're going to see this number spike up really high and then we're going to see it spike down. So, we're in this for a while. We have to stick together. Unfortunately, they don't give me like a complete end time. Like, they don't say like on March 13th or whatever, it's just going to end. It's something like this is beyond heaven's control. It really just focuses on us and us putting in. Hold on, let me fix my volume there.
Yeah.
It really just focuses on us and trusting in our government officials and trusting in our leaders and all of that. I mean, the way I get my information is I actually talk to loved ones on the other side.
Hmm.
So, I'll talk to a grandmother that had passed or a grandfather or father or sister, mother, whoever. And that's really who can see your life. So when you visit a psychic medium or when you connect with a medium, the way that they get their information isn't through the clouds. So when somebody asks me a question, they say, hey, am I going to get married? Did you see me, meeting somebody or did you see me in a relationship? I don't just go and, go and ask myself that question. I have to ask somebody that has died within your life to provide that information. And then they speak to me about it.
Okay,
Because our
great.
loved ones can see everything that we do. They can see tomorrow so much more clearly than we see yesterday.
Wow. Well, I want to ask you a question. So, we've been spending a lot of time with the family. I have two sons, and I posted some of us like we were having s'mores. It was warmer last weekend, and we were doing s'mores, and I was making like these funny Insta stories. And this woman wrote me, and she goes, "I see that you have this like little blue light that was in the video floating around each of your sons." And, she was like, "I'm in this group that believes that's like, the other side kind of being part of your fun or coming down." Do you know anything about that, or how do you feel about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are times when we can capture spirits on camera. We can capture them on, an iPhone or, see them here in pictures. And sometimes you will catch that energy because spirit is energy. So, just the same way that you can see, you can catch things in photos or hear things through a recording when energy interference happens. It's the same thing with spirit. But you also have to make sure that it's not actually just your camera. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's a spirit and sometimes it's just your camera. Like I'm looking at you right now and it looks like you have a halo above your head, but it's really the light that's up above it.
Right.
But I think that anything that you think is a sign is a sign. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I've seen really profound things. And the way that you know it's a sign versus a coincidence or versus just a light or versus just a weird, strange event is if it keeps happening and happening and happening and happening. What the spirit world will do is they use repetition a lot of times to get our attention and to let us know that they're there and with us. So they'll send us signs. So, for example, signs could be anything from seeing butterflies, dragonflies, repeating numbers, hearing different songs that remind us of our loved one. Or it could be you going and seeing somebody no matter where you go that reminds you of your dad or reminds you of your grandmother that had passed.
Mhm.
And those are all ways that our loved ones use to reach us.
Yeah. It's funny because whenever, I'm filming something, which isn't that often, I mostly do this podcast and do stand up. but there's been these times where there'll be, like, 2 flies, like, hanging out, and I've joked with my sister, and I'm like, "Oh, that's mom and dad, like, they just wanna be on set with me, they're happen to be together, and there's just 2 flies, and why is there just why is there 2?" And I kinda, like, joked about it, but, I mean, is that something that is possible?
If it keeps happening, yes. I mean, I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen that listen, I've seen spirit come through in the craziest ways. I have one woman who finds, pennies, dimes, nickels, quarters, no matter where she goes. I have another client who keeps seeing red cardinals to the point where, she came out one day and her whole car was covered with cardinals, and that was her dad's favorite bird. But normally, the way that they come through is in a way that reflects their personality. So if your dad was a coin collector here in this world, then he might leave you, different coins that you see. If your father was a musician, he loved music or loved Frank Sinatra, you might hear that song, Fly Me to the Moon no matter where you go. Or it might be just a feeling that you get. So the way that they communicate with signs isn't that we just see a ladybug or a dragonfly. It has to mean something to that loved one. So, for example, I have a woman who, her dad was a car dealer and, loved cars. And then now her sign with her dad is she sees license plates that connect her with her dad. Like they have different meanings and different things written on them. And it makes
Mhm.
sense because her dad was a car dealer. So they specifically will come through with their personality.
Oh, cool. Okay, great. Can you read me?
Yeah, so your father's definitely here. When I'm connecting, he's very strong around you when I'm
Uh-huh.
speaking to him. And this was a man when I'm connecting with him. He actually, I keep feeling all of this tightness in my chest when I'm speaking to him. And he tells me that he was having all issues in through here.
Uh-huh.
And specifically, there's also issues over circulation with him. Remember the circulation issues? Because he's bringing that up. And he
Okay.
also says to me that one of the things that he wants you to know is that he can now move freely on the other side because he tells me there was issues with walking or being able to move towards the end with his departure. He says, and can I please let my daughter know? He says that I am free from this, and more importantly, that I can now move because this was the hardest thing that your dad was dealing with. And he just said to me that he fell. There was a fall that had happened.
I mean, there were kind of several falls. Towards the end of his life, he was an athlete, so he always had like, the replaced knees and the replaced shoulders. But then towards the end, I remember he said, they think I'll never really walk again. I'll be in this wheelchair because he had fought some other things.
That's what it is. Because he's
Yeah.
saying to me when I'm connecting with him, he says, I need to let her know I can walk, I can move. Because it was also circulation issues that were causing him issues. Because he says to
Yes.
me, like,
He had
he's going,
neuropathy.
he's going like this
Yeah.
to me. He says he couldn't feel his legs.
Yes, neuropathy gets a lot worse as time goes on, and it's like a numbing feeling of your feet and your legs, and, yeah, that's very interesting because I remember I said, "So what? So what if you never walk again? So what if you're in a
But that was your
wheelchair?"
dad's, you got to
Yeah,
know that was your dad's livelihood. And he
yeah,
says to me that I'm going to be honest in what he tells me. He says that when he found out he couldn't walk, it's almost like he lost the will to live because he says to me, I felt like I couldn't have my life back. He says, I felt everything that I loved and everything that I cared about. He says, I felt just washed away because I couldn't partake in things anymore. And your
mhm.
dad wants to thank you for the way that you tried to keep him involved in family events, family get togethers, and the way that you would always include him. He says, but I felt so helpless. And your dad was so strong and he didn't want other people taking care of him here in this world. He's also telling me happy birthday. Whose birthday is it?
Um, my gosh, where are we? April? It's like the days
April.
mixed together. Well, this month, coming this month, my niece, it's Haley's, was my niece Haley's birthday. It's both my husband and my sister's husband's birthdays are the 10th and the 11th of this month. Um, so
It's
I,
going to be that because he's celebrating the birthdays on the other side, and your dad wants you to know that he's with you. But
mhm.
more importantly, he wants to apologize for everything that you had to see here in this world. Because he says to me that you all took turns, taking care of him and keeping an eye on him and trying to keep him positive. He says, and the one thing that he wants you to know is that the same way that he left this world, that he is okay now that he's on the other side because he's acknowledging now.
Oh, that's great. Is he with my mom? Is my mom coming through?
He's there with her, but it's your dad who's the strongest. Your dad because the thing is that he was not prepared to die in the way that he did.
Mhm.
And that was the tough part is that really he suffered for so long, and it was an ongoing thing and a lingering thing, and there was always something that was happening because he's telling me this. And he has been trying to reach you in the worst way to let you know that he is okay. Because, part of the thing is that when he got sick, his personality had changed because he didn't have his legs. He couldn't walk, he couldn't do the things that he loved. And, he wants you to know that on the other side that he's back to being happy and healthy and being okay. Because he's acknowledging that.
Oh, that's nice. That's good.
He's
Yeah,
also
no. Yeah.
he's also connecting me with like the lake house. What was the lake house or the beach house?
We didn't have a beach or a lake house, but he was from the beach. He was a lifeguard on the beach. He's from Long Beach, Long Island, and that's where all his that's where he grew up. That's where his family home and everything as a child was. And his
Oh, perfect.
sister
Because when
and yeah.
he's with all of those people because he's showing me memories of like everybody being like on this house like by the water and everyone going swimming with one another and being connected with one another. So know it's your dad's way of just acknowledging that he's with everybody that's there.
Oh,
And I
that's
keep
great.
also hearing the name Steven. Is this Steven?
Stephen, the Stephen that I think is my mom, her brother, he had Down syndrome and he died, he lived very long for having that. He was, like, probably in his 60s when he passed, and, it's interesting that you say that because right when my mom passed, I had a psychic tell me, that she was greeted by her parents and a seven-year-old boy, and I remember thinking, "What seven-year-old boy?" And then I thought, "I bet it's Steven because mentally he remained at 7." And
Yeah, because your mom and dad are both here, and I kept hearing Steven's here, Steven's here. Tell her Steven's here.
oh, that's
So
so
no, it's the.
sweet because, that was
Are you
so
like freaked out right now?
I mean, I think it's so sweet because, my mom would tell me that she had this brother and back then, it wasn't really if you had a child that had issues, they would put them in the home. You wouldn't have them in your own house. And she told me when they took her brother to the home, she was like hanging on to him and saying like, "I'll take care of him. I'll take care of him." And and then he went to this home and then one of the, a couple years before he died, my dad said, "Let's go visit Steven at the home in Wisconsin," which we live in Los Angeles. And so they got to see him and visit him, and he did really well at in this group home throughout his life. Like he lived a nice, happy, safe, clean life. But I think that was nice for my mom because I think she carried a lot of, like, guilt about not being able to keep in touch with him all those years because of his mental capabilities and the far distance that he lived.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the thing was is that they were very connected to him here in this world and, nervous about him. So the fact that they're on the other side with him is so amazing. And I love that because, to me, when I connect with souls and I connect with family members, I love to see how everyone's back together. And like everyone that we've ever lost and everyone that we've ever, missed is there and waiting for us.
Mhm.
Even our pets make it.
Oh, that's nice. So is my mom saying anything or doing
Well, she's
anything?
like I said, they kept saying to me that Steven was here. So that's just her way of acknowledging that. So is that your brother or her
That
brother?
would be her brother, her only brother,
Perfect. So
yeah.
no, it's her way of just acknowledging that she is back with him. She's telling me when I'm connecting with her that this was a hard thing for you to go through when I'm speaking to her. She keeps whispering because a lot of times I'll hear them and they'll like whisper in my ear, and I keep hearing that there were questions over surgery. And she's bringing that up when I'm speaking to her. And she says to me that there was a lot that she kept hidden with her illness, so she didn't tell you what was actually going on or what was happening.
Mm.
So did you not know everything that was going on with her?
Well, I know that she was starting to have early Alzheimer's, which she tried to hide, but we were becoming aware of it. And then she broke her ankle, and unbeknownst to us, she had a blood clot and died very suddenly with my sister Shannon, who was with her. And there was some
Because of the ankle?
yes, and it was like a real
That's
shock
so
and a
crazy.
surprise. And
Is that with the surgery? Because she kept telling me there was questions over surgery, her going in for surgery.
no, I mean, she really never had that's what was so shocking is because it was always my dad that had, like, so many bouts in the hospital, and with her, I mean, I really don't think she'd been in the hospital since I was born, and then she died in a
Hmm.
hospital. So I don't know about the surgery thing. Maybe she was maybe I know they tried to save her at that hospital and couldn't. And it was very shocking for me to find out that she had passed. Like, and it was really, really hard for my sister Shannon, who was there.
Well, it was hard for your mom too, but like I said, she was not feeling well beforehand because she's telling me this.
Oh,
So, even though she didn't go to the doctors, like I'm talking about with the whole blood, with the whole clot and everything that she was dealing with,
yeah.
she says to me that she wasn't feeling well before. And she says to me that it was the hardest thing that she had to go through because your mom was afraid. She talks about being afraid of surgery and afraid of going in, and there was all of these different things that went around it. So even though you feel like her passing was very rushed, she's acknowledging and letting you know that she was afraid to tell all of you because she didn't want everyone to get nervous.
Mhm. Yeah, I
And
mean,
she's bringing that through because she kept telling me um, about her going in and masking some of her symptoms and masking some of the things that she was feeling.
yeah, I can see that for sure.
But
Yeah.
she is with you every day, and like I says, it's so amazing that she's with her brother because she says to me, "I was not expecting to see him there." And your
Mhm.
mom tells me that when she passed on and when she went to the other side and her brother was there, that's how she knew that heaven was real, and that's how she knew that there was an afterlife.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. Well, I'm really glad that they're seeing that because they were both religious people and definitely believed in God and the afterlife. So, that's really nice.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Let me see what other things can I like ask you? Like does she like watch my career or anything or like because she was so excited about it before I died. I mean, before she died and my
Yeah, she
career
is.
died.
But
No,
you know
just
what's
kidding.
funny is that your mom tells me like she was a little bit like of a diva herself. Like I felt like that she always like wanted to be like famous or like thought of being on TV or things like that because she was living really vicariously through you, and she loved what you were doing, and she's still bragging on the other side because that's her personality. But the thing is
That's really interesting, I just wanna say, because she was very into acting in high school, and she got a scholarship for drama at Catholic University,
that's crazy.
and her dad said, "You can't study acting and drama. You're a good writer. You could go to, study journalism instead." And I when she told me that, I just thought it was so sad that she didn't pursue, you know, the acting thing. She
But she
kinda
did it
went
through
like
you.
yeah.
Because when I'm connecting with her, she says she's telling me like that she always deep in her heart, like she always wanted to be like either on a soap opera or on a TV show. Like that was something that she always thought was so glamorous and so beautiful and so great. And now she gets to watch you, do your career and be out in front of people and doing what you love. And that really makes your mom feel good because she wasn't able to do that. She may have done it in high school, but like I said, she always had that inner diva in her that was ready to come out. So she does guide you and she is with you and that goes for everybody listening is that listen, our loved ones are our number one cheerleaders on the other side. They watch over us every day. They watch us through our careers. They watch us through the craziness that goes on in our life, just like right now when we get nervous, when we get scared, when we get stressed over things that we come into contact with like this virus. Our loved ones are there to keep an eye on us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, she was, and she was so funny. Like my sister and I used to watch old reruns of I Loved Lucy, and we as little girls we'd go, "Mom is like Lucy. That's mom." Like that's the kind of funny thing. Like she was very funny, very witty. Both of them were really like naturally funny, naturally good storytellers, even though neither of them pursued the arts in that way. They were, outgoing people.
But it's also amazing to our loved ones, like when we do the things that they wanted to do, or when we do something that was close to their heart. Like for example, your mom watching you within your career. This was something that she always had in her heart and that she wanted to do. And now to see her daughter, taking that baton and to taking that role and doing it just in a different way, in your own way, with your stand up and what you do with your podcasting and your touring and whatnot. It's so refreshing for them to see
Mhm.
and they love it. That's one of the things that I love doing what I do because you know to see that your loved ones are there and that they're helping to open up opportunities and open up doors is just so comforting to people because when we lose a loved one, the first thing that we think about is, oh my god, are they going to able to see me get married? Are they going to see me walk across the graduation stage? Are they going to see the promotion that I got at work? I wish my mom was here to see me do this. And that's the reason why I wanted to write my book, is because your loved ones are always with you. They do see everything that you do. They are with you through all of it. And it's just up to us to start a conversation with them. What I want to teach people as a medium is that you don't need me to connect with your loved ones. I can validate that they're here and that they're with you, but the conversation doesn't start with me. It starts with you. It starts with you learning the signs, the way that they communicate, and learning how you can, directly connect with them.
So I have a couple general like questions about, whenever we see something with psychics and mediums, whether they're TV personalities like you or, you just go to one, it always seems to be a very positive thing. They're happier on the other side. They love you. They're this or that. Do you ever encounter someone that's like pissed?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, there is a both a positive and a dark side of psychic ability. It really does happen. I mean, just like we have positive people in this world, and most of our experiences are positive. Hopefully, there are some times when you encounter a negative person, and there are some times when you encounter negative souls. But there's something that psychics and mediums do, and light workers do, and that's called psychic protection. So, I actually am just doing a course on this during the coronavirus, is that there's a way that we can go and protect our energy. So, to one, keep away negative spirits, and two, to keep away negative energy. It can affect us. And before I do any reading, before I do, a podcast, before I go out onto a live event, before I do anything, the first thing that I do is I always pray, because I don't want to talk to negative souls. I only want to talk to souls that are going to come through. They're going to help us. If there's a soul that's negative and they try to communicate with us, we know that that's not going to be a good reading. We want our loved ones to come through that really care about us as they did here in this world. Now, there are some souls that come through that we don't want to hear from. How many times do I do a reading where an ex-husband might come through that the person hated here in this world, or there might be a father that was estranged from his daughter that comes through, and the daughter really didn't want to hear from him, but her dad is there. So sometimes there's people that we don't want to hear from that come through, but it's also important to remember that souls, if they're in heaven, they're at peace. Like all of our loved ones, are at peace. It's very rare that you get a loved one that doesn't cross over, that isn't at peace, that is a negative soul. And chances are, like, you will never interact or encounter one within your life, and everybody listening won't interact or encounter one within our life, because the thing is that these souls are very rare. They're very hard to come by, and the only time you're actually going to go and come across a negative soul or a dark soul is if you go looking for it. So don't play with Ouija boards. Don't go into places that are known to be haunted or known to have activity, because you can't bring it upon yourself. But as long as we stay away from those places, you'll be good.
So, what about like, this is I ask weird questions that nobody else probably would ask. What about like, say, you did lose your husband or your love of your life, and now you're in love with someone else. And then I go to see you and you're like, and your first husband always loved you. He's around all the time. Is your first husband watching you bone your second husband?
You better believe it. Absolutely. I mean, well, listen, not that they're sitting there watching, they're not at the bedside with popcorn, but can they see it? Yes. It's like the way that I like to describe it is that your loved ones can see everything that you do. Everything that you do. They can see you bone your husband now. They can see everything. But the thing is that it's like having security cameras in your house. Do you have security cameras in your house?
Outside of my house, but yeah.
How many times do you check those cameras?
Well, my husband does more than I do,
Okay,
but
so there you
we
go.
have
But
looked back at it. Yeah.
you have access to it. If you
Yeah.
wanted to go and look through, you could say to your husband, "Hey, pull up what went on the camera today," and you could see everything that your neighbors were doing, everything that happened outside your house. But you don't. You have access to that information, but you choose not to view it. It's the same thing with your loved ones. If they wanted to, they could watch you in the bedroom or watch you do these things, but they don't watch because it's not interesting to them. To be honest with you, it's like my cameras. I have cameras all around my house. I can't tell you the last time I looked at them. I think they looked at them a couple weeks ago because I was missing my keys and I was trying to figure out where I left them. But the thing is that our loved ones only look after the things that, are meant to be celebrated. Really, graduations, get-togethers, times when we're sick, things like that. But
I
yes, there are times. Wait, let's answer your question. Let me
yeah.
just go back. There
Mhm,
are times when, for example, I was reading this woman in the audience,
mhm.
and she lost she lost a husband and she lost a boyfriend. And her husband had come through, and her husband was like, talking to her and delivering these messages. I'm like, and your husband says, don't worry, because when you pass, you will see him again. And she looked at me and she goes, oh no. She goes, I loved my husband. He was wonderful. We had a great marriage. She goes, but nothing compared to my boyfriend. Oh, my boyfriend. He was so sexy. He was so sweet. And he was so this. And, I came to life again, when I met after my husband died and I met this man. And I'm like, well, listen, that's for you to take up when you go to heaven. But that does happen, and some souls don't get back together. Some people who are married here in this world don't get back together on the other side. And let me just say before everybody starts freaking out and starts going crazy, because every time I say that, everybody goes, oh, are you going to tell me I'm not going to be with my husband? And no, you will. The thing is that, as a medium, I can tell you that there's many times when, because I have clients, where many times people choose to stay in a relationship that they're not in love with the person. Maybe because it's business related, maybe it's too much to get a divorce, maybe it's there's too much at stake. So when you go to the other side, you're not just back with your wife because of a marriage certificate. It has to be because there's true love there. So couples that are truly in love and that are truly soulmates, because that's what a soulmate is, will be back with one another. Couples that really weren't in love and really weren't in a relationship in the first place, chances are won't be.
Well, which makes sense because heaven should be heaven, and if heaven is
Right.
not being with the person that you did the time with here on earth, then you shouldn't have to suffer on the other side. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is there was this one time where I was like, dealing with my sibling who has done time in prison, and so, I was like, I go, "Well, hopefully, like, my mom isn't seeing that sad part," because I'm like, "Well, why would she?" And it kinda makes sense of what you said, like, yeah, why did she doesn't have to see the negative, awful things, she should just be coming to the fun stuff. She should just be coming to my nephew's tennis match or Drake's golf game or a graduation or my performance, like, that would be heaven. Like, why would you
Well, no, they
Yeah.
do see the stuff. They do see like the bad stuff that we go through. They see the divorces, they see the illness that we go through or losing somebody. And a lot of times they do attend their own, well, all the time, I should say, they do attend their own funerals. But the thing is that you got to remember too that heaven can see tomorrow so much more clearly than we see yesterday. So when we're here, like with this virus, for example, right now we're in the coronavirus, and when we're all freaking out, like, oh my God, is there a tomorrow? Is there an another day? Are we gonna get through it? Are we gonna be there? Heaven is not worrying like we are, because they see the end of the end result. They see that we're gonna make it through it. They see that we're gonna be okay, and that this is a life learning lesson and a time for us to stick together and really get back to community. So, that's one of the things that you have to remember as well, is that they do know and they do see the things that take place.
Very cool. Um, let me
And
s
they are concerned for us. Don't get me wrong. They, like, when something happens that is unfortunate within the family, they are concerned. I mean, and they do feel bad. But at the same time, they're not losing sleep over it, because they know that here in this world is where this is the classroom. This is our journey. This is where we learn our life lessons. And it becomes clear when you go to the other side, that your journey is all complete. Now they're watching us go through our journey.
And so when did you realize in life that you had this gift?
Well, so my grandmother was a medium and my mom, but when I say that, they never did it professionally. Just like your mom, was in drama and in the high school musicals or whatever it was that she did. She never did it professionally, but she was still gifted in that way. She was still a performer at heart. She still had that star quality about her, even though she never did it professionally. Same thing with my mom and my grandmother. So they could, communicate with the other side, although that they chose not to. They would only do it for close friends and family members. And when I was growing up, I too had this ability. Just being 3, 4, 5 years old, I could see and feel and sense the departed. And it was scary for me. It was literally like living the movie The Sixth Sense. I didn't realize it was an actual gift or an actual calling until later on in life.
And when you went to see the movie The Sixth Sense, was it weird for you? Was it
Well, I didn't
relatable?
see. Yes, it was. I didn't see it till till later on. And then, as I got older, I was like, wow, like that was my life growing up. Like I was that little boy. Because I was
Really?
always afraid. I was afraid. Like I would have never watched it when I was like 6 years old, 7 years old. I didn't watch it till my teens because I was too afraid of going anywhere near the other side or the afterlife because I knew I could see them and hear them. So when you're afraid of something, you don't go near it. It's like if you're afraid of cars, you don't go to monster truck rally. You know, it's because you're afraid. You choose to distance yourself from that.
Now you hear them, but do you see, like, the visual of them as well?
I do. Like the moment that I was here, like I saw your mom and dad behind you. I saw shadows and I see a shadow and silhouette is what I see. So it's almost like a an outline behind you of what I'll see, and I'll know. Okay, well, this is her mother. This is her dad. This is whoever.
Wow. And so when you started to finally, like, I mean, would it, like, disrupt you while you were in school or anything?
Well, no, because the spirits would always usually come to me when I was alone. So they really didn't communicate with me because you have to clear out your mind to communicate with them. So that's why a lot of times people get haunted at night or spirits come through at night. It's not because the night is so different than the day. It's just because that's the time when normally you're alone, you're asleep, your mind is clear, and that they can easily come to you. A ghost isn't going to come and haunt you in the middle of a casino or the middle of a theater. They're going to wait to come at a place when you're at a time when you're alone so they can reach you and communicate with you. So the thing is that with me, they would always come through to me when I was by myself. If I was playing alone, whether it be outside, inside, day, night, whatever, whenever I was by my side, they would seize that opportunity to try to talk to me and speak to me. So it never happened with my friends, but I would tell my friends what would happen. And I would tell my friends, oh my God, last night, my grandmother came to me, or last night I saw this spirit, or last night this happened. And it was scary. It was scary because they didn't understand it. And I remember like telling close friends of mine when I was younger, like in the neighborhood, and then they would tell their parents, and their parents would say, "Oh yeah, that's his imaginary friends, or he's just making it up." They never gave it life, or they never the family members or the people that were connected to my friends never actually understood what it was that I was going through.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, my other question is, when you're reading somebody and they're like, "So I'm dating this guy, and what do you see for us?" And what do you I mean, do you see the fact that, yes, they're gonna get married or have kids? Or, I know I've had friends that have seen psychics, and then they'll say, "Well, I was dating this guy, and the psychic says, 'This guy is not the one, but 2 people after him with the name that starts with B, that's gonna be the one that you have your kids with.'" And I kinda thought, I don't think that's a healthy thing to do because I think it gets in your brain, and then you might sabotage this relationship you're currently in because you're like, "Well, this guy's not it anyway." How do
Absolutely.
So what is your opinion on all that?
You're absolutely right. And that's why, heaven isn't there to make choices for us. And the thing is that, they won't say to you, well, or they shouldn't say, like, first of all, I don't know, because I don't know what other psychics do, but I do know that what I do, and first of all, I never give like a B name. Like, sometimes I will hear a name. Like, for example, I heard Stephen with your brother, and that was who passed. Sometimes they'll tell me who they're going to meet or who they're going to be with. Not always, but sometimes they will, if they feel like it's going to help you on your path. But the other thing too is that you can't live your life around this. We all have to go through our own experiences and opportunities. So, for example, if you go and say, and this is why the other side sometimes won't give us a name, is because if a psychic tells you, okay, well, you're going to go and you're going to meet, I don't know, a Harold, and that's who you're going to get married to. One person might say, well, you know what? I'm not going to date this person, this person, this person, this person, because that's not Harold. And they're going to wait until that one person comes through their life. And the thing is that we can't cheat life. We're meant to go through some not so good relationships so that we can really treasure the relationships that we're in. I mean, I know that before I met my fiance, I was in a relationship beforehand, and it made me value what I have today so much better. Because if
Mhm.
I didn't have another relationship to compare to or to look back on, I wouldn't understand that I'm truly with my soulmate. So, we have to go, everybody feels that they want to cheat life, or they don't want to go through hard experiences. And unfortunately, we have to go through some of the hardship. We have to go through some of the challenges. We have to go through some of the struggles to really gain appreciation for what it is that we have. And to go back and answer your question about the other side and about being with people, I know that when souls come to me and talk to me about love life and things like that, some usually it's the clients who will not want to hear what they have to say. For example, a client might come to me and they're like, uh, I'm with my boyfriend, and do you see us getting married? Do you see us whatever? And their mother or their grandfather, whoever, will come through and say, yeah, unfortunately, you know, you're not going to get married to him. And they'll say, oh yes I am, I feel it, I know, blah 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 blah. And sometimes our grandparents or our whoever's watching over us can lead us and tell us no. And normally sometimes we don't want to hear it, but it's the truth. Like I'm not in the business of telling people what they want to hear. I have, as a medium, and it's hard, I have to tell people the truth, because sometimes we can get stuck in a relationship or get stuck in a life path that's not good for us.
Okay, so what do you see for my future now that you've talked to my, parents, and can you see anything for me that I should work on or avoid, or what do you see?
Your mom is saying that you need to stop stressing out. She tells me that you stress and stress and stress over things that haven't even happened yet. And she says that you need to start sleeping. That's her advice to you.
Okay.
She tells me that your mind is going, 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 going. And there's times when you can't sleep at night and that you're up and that you try to think ahead too much. And she says, stay in the moment, relax. She says, everything's going well. She goes, stop trying to take care of everybody. She says, you're not there to fix everybody's problems. She says, just focus on you. She says, and learn, she says, to distance your energy a little bit, because your mom tells me that you get really swept up really easily and very fast. So she's telling me that that's one of the things that you have to work on.
Okay. But you so you don't see, like, okay, like a future, like, do you see future stuff with careers or anything, or you only get the future through the past ones?
Through the past ones.
Okay.
So you're gonna know that to get a message, it's not like a slot machine. Like, you can't just ask a question and have an answer come out. Like, the other side will tell me things,
Mhm.
but the way that it works is that there has to be a message for you. So, for example, your dad wanted to come through to tell you about his legs and that he could walk again. But if he was fine and everything was good and you had closure with his passing, or there were things that had happened, he wouldn't come through and speak to you. Just like, like I tell my clients, because there's some people who would want to book a reading with me if they could every single day. And the thing is that your loved ones won't come through every single day. They only come through when there's a message that's there. When, there's something that they have to tell you about, or something that they want to relay to you, or something that's happening. So if everything's going well in your marriage and your life and everything was fine with your mom, chances are she's not going to come through. But if you lost a son and you didn't know how he had died or what had caused his passing, and you're all upset and you're stuck in grief and you can't move on because you think about him every day, then that soul will come through and speak. Or, for example, if let's just say that you're at a crossroads, you're going through a divorce, and the house is up for sale and you don't know where to move and you're really hitting it tough. Well, then your mom or your dad or your loved one may come through to offer you some advice. But you see, there has to be a message that's there. They're not Your grandmother's not going to come through just to talk about her couch, or to talk about, oh, everything's fine in heaven, we're sipping martinis by the pool. There's got to be a message that's attached, and that's the reason why they come through to a medium.
So have you ever had, like, some siblings, and they're all excited to talk to their mother, and the mom really only wants to talk to one of them, like, or really and then the other 2 get offended, or has that ever happened?
Yeah, it has. It happens all the time at the live events. It's not that the mother doesn't want to talk to them, but there are sibling rivalries. Like, I know, God forbid, if my mother passed, me and my sister would be fighting over the reading too with the medium, because that's just, families don't change and personalities don't change. So, for example, if you had two sisters that lived out of state and your mom really didn't get a connection with them or get to talk to them, but then you had your other sister was one that stayed with her by her bedside, lived with her in the house, went food shopping with her, had all these memories with your mom. You better know that when you come to the reading, yeah, she'll acknowledge that you're there and acknowledge, about maybe living outside. And hey, I saw this while you were living away. But the main message might be going to that sister who was with her every day. And it's not because they love them anymore. It's just that, and it's just the person who's going through the hardest struggle. And maybe that one sister that was home with mom while she was passing and going through all that is dealing with it the hardest. Now, I've seen it the other way too. I've seen it where, there was a woman who came in with her sister, and the one sister lived with the mother, took care of the mother, bathed the mother, did everything with the mother, and her other sister lived across the country and didn't get to spend time with their mom. And the sister who lived across the country was the one who got the message.
Mm.
because she didn't get to have that goodbye. She didn't get to have that connection with her mom. She didn't get to, see her, clothe her, be part of her care because her sister was doing everything and she was dealing with such grief and guilt because of that. So the mom came through and told, the daughter that was living at home, hey, I know you did all this for me, but today I have to talk to so and so. And then there's times when everybody gets a message. You don't know how it's going to happen or how it's going to work because they choose what they're going to say and what they're going to talk. I can't put words in a loved one's mouth. I can't say, we'll talk about, Auntie Patty or talk about Auntie Joe. It's up to them, just like here in this world.
So can you also see, um, like, that someone will, have a child or be or have children, or, like, you will be a mother one day? Can you ever see that about people?
Yeah, absolutely. Because on the other side, those souls will come through with children. So they will come through with you know, uh, uh, children that are about to be born here in this world. Because we actually start our journey from the other side. So what happens is that a lot of times I'll see, when someone's about to have a child, they'll show me in heaven, a little baby girl, a little baby boy. It just happened on, I was on that TV show Daily Pop.
Yeah.
And I was reading for Carissa Culliner. Her grandmother was there. And her grandmother kept saying to me, like, she's having a baby girl. She's having a baby girl. And uh, she was having a girl. So they do spend times with those souls before they're born here in this world, which is pretty cool. So, there are listen, anything that comes from God goes back to God. And, anytime you have a child, that is a soul. So whether it's a miscarriage, whether it's an abortion, whether it's a stillborn birth, those souls go back to God. I was actually just on the doctors and it was crazy because I went to do a reading in the audience and this woman had lost her mom and her dad and they both came through. And then they had this little baby that was there with them on the other side. And I was like, your mom's with this child. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe that my mom is there with this soul. She's like, because, she goes, we didn't even know if, my mom was pregnant with this soul or what, because, all I remember is my mom telling me that there was a baby before me and that was it. And, her mom had a baby that was stillborn before. She didn't get to see the child, didn't even get to,
Mm.
back in those days, I guess times were different. So
Mhm.
she really had never gotten any closure, but then on the other side, that soul was there and with her. So yeah, that does happen. And there have been times when, unfortunately, parents will come to me, and sometimes for medical reasons as well. There are children that have to be aborted, and it's really, really, really sad, really sad. But the good news is that those souls are still there. Those souls are still watching over us.
Okay, cool. And they're and they're not mad. Like, I mean, it's not funny, but I'm like, I wonder if, like, if something I always was kinda like, "Oh, I wonder if someone had to do that and make that choice, would," and they're feeling guilt about it, and then would that spirit come and be like, say anything? Like, "It's
Well,
okay. I
it's
understand," or not?
I mean, listen, I have done so many readings where this has happened. And unfortunately, the people who really hold on to that burden, not the ones on the other side, it's people here in this world.
Mhm.
And that's the hard part is that, sometimes we make wrong choices. Sometimes we have to make the choice, sometimes we don't. And there have been many, many clients who have come through for that reason. They've come to see to make sure that that child is there because they feel so badly about it.
Mhm.
And that's the tough part. Is that they are struggling and they deal with that guilt or that hurt every day of knowing that they could have had that child. But what's so amazing is that being a medium, being able to contact that child and tell them that that soul is okay on the other side, and being able to sense that child and know, well, that child is in the arms of a grandmother, is not in the arms of a mom, is in the arms of a dad. It's happened. It's happened, like I said, because I know there was one case where a couple came to me. They were so distraught and so upset because, the woman was having problems getting pregnant, having problems, carrying a child, and then she finally got pregnant, and she had to make the decision to let the child go because I don't know how they do the ultrasounds or how they do the testing, but they found out that this child was going to have serious, serious problems
Mhm.
and it was going to cause problems for her to deliver and the child afterwards. And they said, there's no way this child is going to make it. And, they went back and it was so hard and they had to let that child go and that soul was around them. But then at the same time, there was a grandmother that was there that was saying, it's okay. You will get pregnant and you will have a boy. And, you know, Sure as hell, they did later on. It wasn't until 2 years afterwards, but they did. So that's one of the things that I love what I do. The readings are very emotional at times. They're not always. Then it's not always it's not what you want to hear, it's what you have to hear. And things get emotional. I talk to people who have passive suicide, people who have died, unexpectedly, people who have passed in murders. I mean, I've talked to people who have lost loved ones in 9/11, people who have lost loved ones in the Sandy Hook tragedy. I mean, when there's a tragedy, I'm called in. And it's sometimes it's very tough to hear these things, but it's also important to know and to be strong in your faith and to know that heaven is there. And that's what I'm trying to teach people.
With suicide, have you ever had someone, because, in studies of suicide, um, they've said that, like, there was this one thing where they studied all these people that had jumped from this bridge, and of the people that lived, they later on said as they were going down, they had changed their mind. And, so have you ever talked to someone that committed suicide that is like says that basically, like, "I wish I hadn't done this. I'm okay now," but, like, anything like that?
That's crazy. That's crazy. I've never heard of that before, this study that you're talking about. And that makes a lot of sense that you're saying that. And I'm actually gonna research this after I talk to you, because there have been times, many times, when souls regret it. They really, really do, because when they go to the other side, they're able to see, oh my God, I could have went to my mom for support, or my mom wasn't really mad at me, or my dad wasn't really upset, or I could have changed this, or I could have changed that. Or what I thought was so bad, actually there was a solution for it. But the saddest thing is that what I've come to realize too is that people passive suicide for different reasons. Another reason could be too, and this has happened, where some people have had underlying conditions. One person had done it because of the fact that he was dying of cancer, couldn't deal with the pain anymore.
Mhm.
Another person had gone through this because they were going through a mental uh, disability, a mental illness, where they were dealing with like by being bipolar and things like that, where they
Right.
would have all these racing thoughts, and they just felt that they weren't who they were. So there are different reasons on why people do it, and I think that brings a lot of comfort to people here, because so many times when people pass of suicide, we're like, well, was it us? Could I have changed this? And because I have done something different. So to go back and to contact that person and find the reason why they did what they did, can bring a lot of comfort. And it also brings comfort sometimes in knowing that, yeah, maybe they would have changed their mind or done something different.
Mhm. Yeah, that is great. I so appreciate you talking to me. Everybody go get his book, When Heaven Calls, Matt Frazier. Watch the show. I've only watched a couple episodes. I'm gonna catch up on the whole first season, and hopefully you guys will be back soon. And who's all on the show? You, your fiance? Who
It's
else?
me, my fiance, my mom, my dad, my sister, and her family as well. So it's pretty crazy. About there's a whole group of us right from Cranston, Rhode Island. I'm a psychic medium. My fiance now is a pageant queen. She was former Miss Rhode Island, Team USA. My mom is a psychic medium who I work with, who's on the show when we're not trying to kill each other. And my girlfriend's mom is a baby nurse. So we're a very odd bunch, but somehow some way we make it all work.
And do you like it? Do you like being on the reality show?
Well, to be honest with you, this has always been my life. Before the show, I already had a 2 year waiting list for private readings and was on tour, and had so much of my life being shared. And my dad was the fire commissioner of the city of Boston for quite some time, so we were always in the news. We always had things that were going on. So to me, I love it because I think it shows people a different side of me. People know me from being on TV and being on radio shows, and seeing me go do a reading and leave. Where now what they get to see is they get to see the whole behind the scenes. They get to meet my family, they get to know me on a different level. And to me, this show has brought me a lot more closer with the people who have followed me, because they get to know me on a much more personal level.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. Take care. Thank you for letting me talk to my parents today and answering all the questions. And I really think, um, everyone should get the book because I think that you really showed a way of having a regular person be able to, connect to the other side in a great way in describing it in the book. So Great.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for talking to me today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.